You've probably heard the story of Shakespeare's Hamlet. But have you ever wondered what became of his lover? A girl who did nothing wrong, except love him endlessly. A girl whose love turned into loneliness, and whose weight made her an enemy. From the queen to the entire kingdom, this is the story of Ophelia. The tale begins with a small, beautiful girl, gentle in nature, curious in spirit. Ophelia lived with her father and brother. Her mother had died long ago. She belonged to a world where girls weren't allowed to read or write. But Ophelia didn't follow rules made for others. She followed her own mind, and no one dared to stop her. In the queen's private garden, there was a lake. Clear, calm, hidden behind flowering trees. It became Ophelia's favorite place in the world. She would spend hours there, swimming alone, whispering her dreams to the water. Every evening, music and laughter filled the palace halls. There were feasts, dances, and endless celebrations. But while the others laughed and twirled, Ophelia stood in the shadows, watching, thinking. And she wasn't alone in her silence. The queen too often watched in sorrow. Her heart belonged to a king who was too busy for love, lost in power, war, and duty. He had no time for the woman who loved him, no time for her quiet pain. And in this palace of grandeur and grief, two women, so different, yet so alike, lived side by side. One was a queen without love, the other, a girl on the edge of a love story that would never be hers. The queen's heart was restless. Her husband, the king, no longer paid her any attention. And the one who quietly rejoiced in this distance was the king's younger brother. For years he had longed for the queen. And now, her loneliness was his opportunity. But the palace was in a joyful mood today. Prince Hamlet, who had been studying abroad, was finally returning. The queen's face lit up as the young prince arrived. For a moment, it felt as if all her sorrows had vanished. But when she saw him, taller, older, no longer a boy, she felt a sudden emptiness. Time had passed too quickly, and the woman who once held the king's heart now felt invisible to him and to herself. In her loneliness, the attention of the king's younger brother felt like a second chance at life. And quietly, dangerously, she allowed herself to accept it. Meanwhile, Hamlet wandered into the royal garden, a quiet place he remembered from his childhood. There, by the lake, he saw her. Ophelia. She was swimming in the still waters, her figure glowing under the fading sun. And in that moment, Hamlet's heart faltered. He couldn't take his eyes off her. He came closer. And so did she. They fell into each other like a forgotten melody returning to memory. But that moment didn't last forever. The day came when Hamlet had to leave again. And as he prepared to go, reality struck. He knew this love could never survive the palace walls. So, with a heavy heart, Hamlet gave Ophelia a final kiss. "This must end here," he whispered. Ophelia said nothing, but her silence spoke of heartbreak. And even as Hamlet walked away, he kept turning, looking for one last glimpse of her. She didn't even know how to say goodbye. Days later, the queen sent Ophelia deep into the forest. She was to find a mysterious witch, known only in whispers, and bring back a magical potion. The queen wanted to restore her youth, to feel beautiful again. But she warned Ophelia sternly, "Do not look at the witch's face." Ophelia obeyed. But when she met the witch, she was stunned. The woman looked exactly like the queen. Ophelia wanted to question it, but remembered the queen's warning. She returned silently with the potion and went to prepare the queen's room. Suddenly, she heard voices. Angry voices. The king and queen were arguing. Ophelia hid behind the curtains, listening as secrets unfolded. The king accused his brother of indulging in pleasures while the kingdom suffered. "He is your stepbrother," he said bitterly. But the queen refused to hear a word against him. The king stormed out, leaving the queen wounded by more than just words. Ophelia followed the queen quietly, watching as she climbed the palace stairs. Then, without warning, the queen vanished. A dark figure in black appeared, just for a moment, and then vanished too. Ophelia, frightened, returned without understanding what she had witnessed. The next morning, everything changed. The palace echoed with grief. The king was dead, poisoned by a snake, they said. But something didn't feel right. At the queen's request, the king's brother, Claudius, was crowned the new ruler. Soon after, he married the grieving queen. By the time Hamlet returned, everything was lost. He stood in disbelief. His father was gone. His mother had married his uncle. And the throne that should have been his, was now in Claudius's hands. Hamlet was heartbroken. He confronted his mother. "Why didn't you stand up for me?" he asked. But there were no answers, only silence. Claudius, proud and arrogant in his new role, ordered Hamlet to bow to him. Everyone obeyed, but Hamlet could not. He walked away, his eyes filled with tears. Only one person saw him, Ophelia. She felt his pain, even though she had stayed away, on purpose. She still loved him, but knew that being close to him now could destroy both of them. Later, her brother, before leaving for studies, warned her, "Stay away from Hamlet. People are talking. One whisper could ruin our family." Even Hamlet's friend approached her. "Hamlet is breaking," he said. "He needs someone. Please talk to him." That night, Ophelia went to meet him. Hamlet looked at her with tired eyes. "You are close to my mother," he said. "Tell me, did she ever truly love my father?" Ophelia had no answer, but silence was enough. Hamlet realized the truth he didn't want to believe. Broken and betrayed, he clung to Ophelia, his only source of comfort. Their love reignited in secret. But the shadows around them grew darker. One day, the queen sent Ophelia back to the forest, once again, for a magical potion. Ophelia walked deep into the forest, her footsteps hesitant but steady. Trees whispered secrets in the breeze, and the path ahead seemed darker than ever. As she stepped into a small clearing, her breath caught in her throat. A shadow in black moved swiftly between the trees. She paused, but the figure vanished before she could make sense of it. Shaken, Ophelia continued until she reached the old wooden hut where the mysterious witch lived. As she entered, she looked closely at the woman standing before her. Calm, quiet, but strangely familiar. "Why," Ophelia whispered, "why do you look just like the queen?" The witch's eyes glinted with a mix of pain and old rage. "Because she is my twin sister," the witch said bitterly. "She got everything: beauty, wealth, the crown." Ophelia listened, stunned. "Once," the witch continued, "someone promised me love. He said he'd give me everything. He made me believe I could become like her, become the queen. He was a man who loved deeply, but fate was cruel." The witch's voice trembled as she spoke. "My child died inside my womb. People blamed me, hunted me, but I knew the forest well. I drank a poison from the herbs I mastered. It slowed my heartbeat, turned my skin cold. They thought I was dead." Her eyes burned. "But I had the antidote. I survived." Ophelia asked quietly, "Who was he?" "The man who betrayed you?" The witch looked at her, voice sharp as a blade. "Claudius. The same man who now wears the crown, the same man who married my sister." Ophelia stepped back in disbelief. Elsewhere, Hamlet had made up his mind. He had already lost his father, his crown, and his trust in the world. He couldn't afford to lose love, too. He went to Ophelia with one plea. "Marry me," he said. "No more secrets, no more waiting. I don't care about the throne, I just need you." And Ophelia, torn by danger but moved by his devotion, agreed. In the quiet shadows of the palace chapel, the two were married in secret. For a while, it felt like the world outside didn't matter anymore. But peace never lasted long in the palace. One afternoon, while cleaning the queen's room, Ophelia saw a familiar black cloak thrown carelessly on a chair. Her breath hitched, It was Claudius's, the same cloak she'd seen in the forest that day. She inspected it and found a bottle of poison tucked into the lining. Her hands trembled. It was the same type of poison the witch had once described. The truth hit her like a storm. Claudius had murdered the king, with the witch's help. Before she could escape, Claudius appeared behind her, catching her red-handed. He didn't shout. He didn't panic. He simply smirked and said coldly, "I know about your little marriage. You and Hamlet, you think love can protect you?" Then his voice turned sharper, dangerous. "Do as I say, or I'll destroy him." Ophelia was horrified. Claudius knew their secret, and he intended to use it. He could sense that Hamlet suspected something. So Claudius gave her a task. Spy on Hamlet. Ophelia, heart-pounding, agreed. But she was no ordinary girl. That night, she went to Hamlet and confessed everything. "Claudius is watching me. He wants me to betray you," she said. "But I won't. Let him come. I'm not leaving your side." Hamlet understood the danger. His eyes darkened with worry. "If he hurts you just to hurt me, I won't be able to forgive myself." Claudius, growing more paranoid, tried to separate them. He summoned Ophelia's father and hinted at arranging her marriage, another way to push her out of Hamlet's life. But Hamlet had a plan. During a royal celebration, he invited performers to the palace. They acted out a play, a tale of betrayal, of a brother who murdered a king to steal his crown. It was more than entertainment. It was Hamlet's trap, a mirror held up to Claudius and to the queen. Hamlet's aim was to awaken the conscience of his mother and reveal the truth to the court. But Claudius saw through the performance. He stood up furious and accused Hamlet of rebellion. "This is treason," Claudius thundered. But Hamlet stood silent, knowing that sometimes truth must first shake the throne before it can shine in the light. The queen stood frozen, her eyes locked on the performers as the truth unfolded before her eyes. Hamlet had staged the story of betrayal, the tale of a brother killing his own blood for the throne. But still, she could not believe it. Her gaze shifted to Ophelia, and rage burned in her eyes. "This is your doing," the queen snapped. "You've turned my son against me, against his king." Ophelia stepped forward, shaken. "No, Your Majesty, I've done nothing. You must listen." Watching all of this unfold, Ophelia's father grew deeply troubled. He realized that the queen now viewed his daughter as a threat, and that could ruin Ophelia's future. He made a decision. Ophelia must marry, and soon. If she became someone else's responsibility, maybe the queen would leave her alone. But Ophelia resisted. "I must talk to the queen," she pleaded. "She must hear the truth. If we don't open her eyes now, this kingdom will fall into darkness." Moved by her words, her father went to the queen to beg for forgiveness on Ophelia's behalf. Ophelia waited anxiously, hoping for a change. But before any word came, Hamlet's friend arrived, breathless and worried. "There's been a mistake, a terrible one," he said. Ophelia's heart stopped. "What happened? Is Hamlet in danger?" Last night, Hamlet hid in the queen's chamber. He was waiting for Claudius, dagger in hand. But it wasn't Claudius who entered. It was your father. Ophelia's knees gave out. The queen, moved by her sorrow, refused Claudius's order to arrest her and let Ophelia go. But Claudius's guards chased her. Ophelia, remembering the witch's story, drank the same poison the witch had taken years ago. Then, without another way out, she jumped into the lake. The poison rendered her unconscious, and the guards buried her, assuming she was dead. But her brother dug her grave that night and brought her out. Due to the poison's effect, Ophelia came back to life. She pleaded for his help, but her brother, blaming Hamlet, told her to stay away from him. Ophelia tried to convince him, but he was under Claudius's influence. As they prepared to leave, news came that their enemies had entered the kingdom. The same ones Hamlet's father had once stopped. But Claudius was unaware and lost in his indulgences. Ophelia's brother visited the witch, who gave him a cure for the poison. Ophelia told her, "You helped Claudius, the same man who turned people against you and wanted you dead." The witch was stunned. She couldn't believe her lover Claudius had done this. Seeing Ophelia faint from exhaustion, she was shaken. When Ophelia opened her eyes, the witch told her to save Hamlet. When Ophelia asked why, the witch revealed that Claudius was setting up a fight between Hamlet and her brother, so Hamlet would die, and Claudius's name would remain clean. Now the witch saw Claudius's true nature. He would go to any lengths to eliminate anyone, without leaving a trace. She said, "I want the snake dead and the stick broken. You're the only one who can save my son." Ophelia was sent to the palace, where Claudius gave her brother a poisoned sword, telling him it would kill Hamlet and avenge their father. But behind the scenes, Claudius was playing both sides, fueling her brother's revenge while eliminating Hamlet. Meanwhile, Ophelia met Hamlet and begged him to end this revenge. She pleaded, "Don't fight. Come with me. I'm tired of all this. I just want a small, peaceful life with you." Ophelia stood at the edge of the battlefield, torn between two worlds, one where her brother fought with every ounce of his being, and the other where Hamlet, the love of her life, stood determined to win. She knew that regardless of who emerged victorious, both would be hurt in some way. Her heart ached as she watched the two of them prepare for the final clash. Hamlet, sensing her worry, gave her a reassuring smile. "Don't worry, Ophelia," he said, his voice firm with resolve. "I will win this fight. I have to." He had one last purpose. He needed to hurt Claudius. Hamlet knew that Claudius had orchestrated the conflict between him and Ophelia's brother, and this was the final opportunity to make him pay for everything he had done. With a final glance at Ophelia, Hamlet told her, "Stay here. I'll return to you soon." Ophelia nodded, tears threatening to fall, but she obeyed. She stayed at her spot, watching as the two men locked in battle. The fight was fierce but brief. The poison on Ophelia's brother's sword proved to be deadly, and it didn't take long for Hamlet to feel its effects. With a final, desperate strike, Hamlet tried to defend himself, but it was too late. His blow missed its mark. The poison took its toll, and Hamlet fell. Ophelia's heart shattered as she watched the love of her life collapse before her eyes. In her grief, her mind went wild with rage. She could no longer contain her fury. In one swift motion, she grabbed the poisoned sword from the ground, ran toward Claudius, and stabbed him with all the strength left in her. The sword sunk deep into his chest, ending his tyrannical rule. But Ophelia wasn't done. Overcome with sorrow and the unbearable weight of her loss, she raised the goblet of poison. Without a second thought, she drank from it, sealing her fate. At that very moment, the enemy army launched their attack. The war they had all fought so hard to avoid had come, and soon they overran the country. The kingdom that had once been hers now lay in ruin. Ophelia, who had been waiting for Hamlet's return, was left to face the cruel reality that he would never come back to her. She waited for days, weeks, but the hope she clung to slowly withered away. Disheartened and lost, Ophelia wandered off into the mountains, choosing to live in solitude, far away from the pain and the memories of the love she had lost. And so, the tragic tale came to an end. Hamlet, Ophelia, Claudius, each one caught in the web of fate, leaving only sorrow in their wake. Thank you for watching.